We have seen that the weak topologies as well as strong topologies are coming very naturally once you are equipped with a family of functions. As an application, we have observed the product topology is in fact the weak topology generated by the projection functions. In this lecture, we would like to concentrate on the dual part. To begin with, we will look at strong topologies, and as a specific case, we will discuss quotient topology, and finally wind up with the identification spaces, which actually open the doors of algebraic topology for us. So recall our definition of strong topologies. If we are supplied with a family of functions from topological spaces xi to a set y, let fi be this family, then the strong topology on y, which makes each fi continuous, is given by, I may use it u, then the members inside that are just subsets of y, such that fi inverse of v is open in xi for every I in I. That's all. That is how we are making the strong topology on y. Many interesting examples are coming out whenever our family is a singleton one, which means suppose we have a single x, which is a topological space. Let me write it as x2, and f is a function which actually takes x to y as set y. Then the strong topology on y determined by the singleton f, that is f. This f has to be continuous and y has to be given the strong topology in such a way. So if u is such a topology, the strong topology determined by a single f, then in fact, without loss of generality, we can assume that the function is onto. Because see how the topologies are defined here. Topology on y, that is u is determined by those subsets of y, that is set of all v, once again I will repeat with singleton one, y v in y, such that f inverse of v is open in x, right? So our f inverse of v, if you are looking at, that is nothing other than that f inverse of f of x intersecting with v. F of x is the range basically. So f inverse of v is open in y. Correspondingly, what will happen? This fellow is open. Right side is open. Right side is open means we are looking at f of x intersection v. You have to look at whether it is open. That is, it means we are looking at the intersection is with f of x is open in the other side. So the function f and tau on x directly determine the topology on f of x and then pulled or dragged the entire codomain to the domain, codomain, right? So basically we have to concentrate only on f of x while determining this singleton and strong topology in this case. Hence, without loss of generality, we can consider this is a surjective function, a onto function. So whenever such a situation occurs, we name it as quotient topology. Once again, if x is a topological space and f is a function from x to y, and if you are topologizing y, I may call u, which is a strong topology determined by the singleton f. Also, I am assuming that it is an onto function. Then f is called the quotient map. And obviously, y is going to be called as the quotient space in this topology, quotient topology. So this is our formal definition, and simply the quotient maps are nothing other than that you have two topological spaces x and y. with tau and u, and F is said to be a quotient map provided U is given to be the quotient topology with respect to X also you can call in this situation. That is your topology on Y is going to be, I mean U here, is going to be given the strong topology generated by the function F. That's all. So this Y is called, this topology is called the quotient space of X. Now, in fact, this is a dual concept. See, let us just investigate one problem on example what we have already observed. Then immediately we will get the dual concept of product and all. See, whenever we are talking about product, the quotient naturally comes as the inversion idea or dual idea. So that can be easily observed here too. So if you are looking at, see, we know the following situation. We have already done that. If xi, tau I, they are all topological spaces for some finitely many topological spaces are supplied, and if X is my topological product of this xi, let me denote the product space as tau, then I have the important class of functions which are called projections. So all the projection maps from X to xi are there. We know that it is onto, and we know that it is continuous. It is the weakest topology generated by this. This tau is the weakest topology generated by this pi I. Everything is known for us. But in this situation, what actually it's going to happen is, we have started with xi tau I. These tau I, in fact, are the quotient spaces of this product space. That dual concept one can easily observe. See, pi i's are defined from x to xi. So they are continuous also. So just look at any open set in the right hand side, pull back it, that is pi I inverse of v here. Since it is continuous, it's going to be open here. An open set pulling back is open. Conversely, it is also clear. You just push from here. Basically, pi I, just push it through pi I. Conversely, pi I inverse of that fellow, that is what pi I inverse of pi I, just push through this way means what will happen? Pi I acting on pi I inverse of v, that is going to be v. It's an onto function. It's exactly going to be v. So v is going to be open if and only if this fellow is going to be open. And what it says? It says that we are equipped with the quotient topology on xi. So tau I is in fact the quotient space or quotient topology of x with respect to this pi i's or generated by this pi. So they are dual to each other. But the terminology quotient is not merely coming as that. It has its own meaning, because quotient always related with identification and all that we will discuss further. But the proof what you have supplied here, if you are just scrutinizing the proof, this pi i's, see, they are going to be open maps. That is why pi I of pi I inverse of v is going to be exactly an open situation comes on the right hand side. So what we need actually to get a more neat theorem or a general theorem. So we can state that also as a theorem. Every open surjective map is going to be a quotient map, because nothing more we are using in this particular argument. See, look at f is a function. It is from, suppose it is an open map from x to y, right? It's a surjection, and it's a map, so it is continuous, it is open. All these three ingredients are enough to say that f is going to be a quotient map. What you have to do the same way you can look at, because any v open here, you have to look at f inverse of v here. Use all these facts together as before. Because of continuity of f, v is open, this fellow is open. Since it is an open map, f is an open map, just push through f on f inverse of v and use surjection, you will get that fellow, that other side also. This fellow is open, it implies v is also open. That is enough. So it gives the guarantee that the map is going to be quotient. So this is a very good result. Every open surjection, continuous surjection, is going to be a quotient In fact, nothing special about openness. One can also work with closeness also. One can restate that also, or we can reframe in such a way also. Every closed surjective map is also going to be a quotient map. That also can be easily observed. How to do that? So you start with, again, from x tau to yu. Let it be all such conditions. And when it's a closed fellow, it's a surjective fellow, it's a continuous fellow. So all these ingredients are enough to state that it's a quotient map again. Again, look at, see, start with the V from here. If it is open here, pull back it through F inverse. It's also going to be open because of a continuity of F. Similarly, you start with F inverse of V is open in X. Just look for the complement part of it. This is the complement part of here. That is going to be closed. Once this is open, this fellow is closed. Now push it through F of this fellow, that is X minus F inverse of V. What ultimately you are going to reach at here is Y minus V. So since it's a closed map, Y minus V is going to be closed here, which implies that V is open here. So once again you will get V is open in Y if and only if F inverse of V is open in X, which guarantees that your topology on Y is quotient topology, or the map is a quotient. So once you have a surjective continuous function, either it is open or closed, will guarantee that it is a quotient map. But it is not true that every quotient map is either this or that. It is not true. We will work with examples later. So once you are having this quotient map, we can formally define what are the properties are going to be kept invariant under quotient maps. I mean, they are usually called divisible maps. So these properties, divisible properties. So that also we will define formally. Any property, topological property, is said to be a divisible one if some space X is there possessing that, and you take the image under the quotient map. That is f of x, basically it comes a quotient space of it you have to look at in that case. That also possesses that. In that case, you will say that it is a divisible property. Many properties are divisible. To start with, finiteness. X is a finite space. You go for the quotient space, it's also going to be like that. Another one is the discreteness of the topological space. That also is going to be like that. Suppose, see why it follows, a discrete space you are taking and the quotient space is also going to be discrete. It's very easily, one can observe that. Just look at the proof if you wish. F is a quotient map. X is the discrete space from X to Y. So start with the quotient map F. Now this fellow is discrete. Now quotient map is supplied. So quotient map is supplied means strong topology on Y is given for which F is continuous. But remember, once you are giving discrete topology on the domain, every function is going to be continuous without looking at the topology of Y. So the largest topology obviously going to be, or the strongest topology on Y, you have to take it as discrete one. So the topology that is preserved. The topology on Y or the quotient topology also preserves that. So its discreteness is preserved under this quotient map. But there are certain properties which are not preserved, something like second countability and all, you will look at later. So quotient spaces, in fact, that is more nicer idea if you are looking at. See, whenever from the dual point of view, quotienting out actually means factorizing. It means identifying. So it gives us something intrinsically. Actually, you can understand this, and we can say that new spaces are emerging out of the older ones. To begin with, the quotient spaces are actually evolving intrinsically from the domain space. Whatever be a topological space X2 is given, then it comes very intrinsically, naturally comes out with the quotient spaces. Just let us elaborate a little bit more here, how these things are going to happen. So for that, the following situation is very much useful. See, for the time being, just consider two sets. The category of sets, what is going to happen with how these things are going to be connected, the identification and factorization of quotients. We will just discuss it that at first. Then you will see what's happening in general. See, start with a Symbol function here from x to y. Maybe I can start with a surjection. This is an onto function. So if f is from x to y and it is an onto function, see, x is not equivalent with y now. The only difference because of through the failing of the something oneness we don't know. So two different fellows may be mapped onto the same thing, such a thing may happen. Once it is also available there, it is going to be some bijection, and bijection gives the equivalence. So once a function is given, there is a natural way of evolving out with a equivalence relation, very natural equivalence relation using that. Just glue or identify some elements, appropriate elements using these functions. So let me explain further. See, f is the given function. It's an onto function. So what is a special equivalence relation coming out of f? So we relate two elements x and y from x. X and y are members of x. They are related x or y, I may use it, provided f of x agrees with f of y. Their functional evaluations are same and they are related. Clearly, it is going to be an equivalence relation. An equivalence relations allows us partitions of the entire space into equivalence classes. So let me denote the whole collection of equivalence classes of x as D, script D. So what are these? What you are doing in this using this relation? See, x and y are related in x provided f value at x is same as y value at x. So which means, see, you are just making different things into one atomically. See, so more precisely you can think about it in this way. You look at any small y in y, go for the pullback of f inverse, right? So f inverse y is, if you are looking there, you are, see, it is not given to be, the function is not given to be a one function, but you are identifying the pre-images together. That is, f of x and f of y are same evaluation. So there is an ambiguous notation with y. I am not using y here. So pullback of singletons, I may just call it as. So maybe some s, I may call it here. So just take an s and just pull it back with f inverse. Then it may have more than one element that is identified together. That is what we are trying to look at. So D consists of the decomposition according to this relation, equivalence relation. They are the equivalence classes. They precisely consist of the inverse image of the singletons. Because any member you are taking, you just pull back, all are identified into one class. That is what is going to happen. This is available in the category of sets always. Once you are given with an onto function, a surjection, you can have an equivalence relation which actually partitions x, right? So once you are giving with these partitions, you are identifying them some elements using the functional value. You are making the more making f of x, f of y are same, then that relation is occurring like that. Then this decomposition space, this D is usually called as the quotient set in that case. So our relation is actually splitting this thing, identifying these things, the classes. So there we use the notation x by r if r is the relation. So x is a set, f is this given function, and use this equivalence relation and go for the partition. Then the quotient set is denoted by x by r. This x by r is nothing other than the the collection of all equivalence classes. So naturally a function exists from X to XR, right? That is, if f is from X to Y is, yeah, I'll just explain a little bit more now. My f is from X to Y, which was on to. Now I have defined my equivalence classes using the relation which I have already given R. So I will denote X by R as my B, and the natural embedding or natural function I can give from X to X by R. How it is given? Each X you have to look at and go for the corresponding class. That is, take any element here, then map down to the corresponding class. That is how this map is given. That is a natural embedding or natural canonical projection, we can say. I will usually denote it by P. So see the things now. We have a surjection from X to Y, which is this F. P is the natural projection or canonical projection from X to X by R. Now, just you can try to define a function from Y to this value, Y to X by R, or D I can call. In the following way, I may call it as theta. How it is defined is, you take any Y from here, that Y I will just map down to the class X, which means theta of Y, I will simply put it as P of X, where my X is what? X is in my F inverse of pulling back of the singleton Y, right? This is how. So it is clear. So once Y is taken from here, you can go back using the F inverse value here. They are all made into one class. That class is concerned as the image here. So a commutativity happens for this diagram. So if theta is like this, just look at concentrate on theta, what it possesses. F is an onto function. So both the properties of F and P combiningly say a lot of things now. Theta is going to be not only onto now, because of this splitting through this projection, theta is going to be a 1-1 map also. Because all the pre-images, once an element from here, it goes through this X, which means all the pre-images are considered as a singleton. That is singleton this class. So you'll be getting 1-1 as well. So the theta, once it's defined, theta of Y as something like this, P of X or class of X, then theta is going to be a bijection. What it says now? If you are starting with a surjective function, go for the equivalence class generated out of this F, talk about this canonical projection, define a map from this Y to X by R as like this, then that theta is a bijection, which means that theoretically X by R and Y are same. They are at the same, which means there is no difference set theoretically. So theoretically, this quotient, we call that it is a quotient set. This quotient set is same as that of Y. So that is in the category of sets. You are not having additional structures on that. So, but that is a very useful thing. That is why we are calling it as quotient spaces and all. Identification is going to happen. Every element in this setup, see, look at using the relationship, the classes are same, the single one. So additionally, you can make use of this in our space. That is the category of topology, what is differing. In this situation, additionally, we have X, some structures, topology. It's a topological fellow. So not merely as an surjection or something we have to ask for. You have to always play with the topological structures. So about continuous functions also. That is what we are trying to look at, how to modify this in our situation. It's also very interesting to see. In the category of topology, if you are asking the same problem, X is a topological space, right? And Y, it is having the quotient space, which means F is a quotient map. And now, what you have to do? x, this f obviously is going to give us an equivalence relation, or as discussed before, that equivalence relation ideally decomposes the whole x now, and we will get d. That d allows us this x by r. So we have a natural projection P. So we have x by r here, this quotient set. Now put the strong topology generated by this P. Projection P is available. So you have x was a topological space. So give the strong, topology generated by this projection map here. So this was the quotient function, quotient map you have given. Now what happens the previous situation now? Some additional structures are going to come. They are all topological objects now. Now, theta was, see, in this situation, commutative diagram means theoretically it gives that it's a bijection. That's fine. In addition to that, see, P is continuous. It guarantees, if it's a quotient map, that's also continuous. It guarantees that theta is continuous. A very similar way, you can prove that theta inverse is also continuous, which says what? We have a function theta which is from y to x by r, which is continuous, as well as inversion is also continuous. So bijection, which is continuous, and inversion is also continuous, it makes us to say that identify these two, y and x by r, they are same or equivalent in the category of topology. They are topologically, they are not at all different. That is what is guaranteed here. That is ultimate moral. Start with any quotient space here. Then through the equivalence relation, if you are making the decomposition like that, actually you are making the decomposition means equivalence relation means they are actually identifying, as I mentioned before, or gluing together the same element into a single fellow like that. That is why identification I am using. Then what we can observe now is nothing other than that this quotient space is an identification space always. So quotient spaces are always in one correspondence with this identification. You can just simply like that say that it is a identification space. But identification space means through an equivalence relation whenever it comes. See, identification, decomposition actually. Decomposition primarily comes from an equivalence relation, vice versa also. So practically sometimes decomposition we will keep it in our mind and we will search for the corresponding equivalence relation. You have to make some elements same. You have to say that these two fellows are equivalent at all. That is a practical way whenever sometimes it is using. So whenever you are identifying something, practically we are doing gluing or pasting. That is why these constructions are important and new things are coming out. Let us look at a more precise example in topological conditions like this, how these things are going to happen. See, suppose I am having the closed bounded interval 0, 1. It's a topological fellow, I know. Now, suppose I am identifying the 0 and 1 together. I am making a decomposition basically. All the elements in between 0 and 1 I am not changing, but 0 and 1 are going to be put at the same. So if I'm doing topologically like that, what is going to be decomposition space? Decomposition space D, in that case, I will get an identifiable fellow 0, 1. I can construct, we can just denote it by 0, 1. That is a set, which is all the elements inside that 0 and 1 are just identified together. And all the other fellows, singletons X with 0 less than X less than 1 also. These are going to be my D. So in this case, topologically, what I am going to get? See, I can just think that this geometrically I am going to reach at unit circle, because this I am just, see, I am making topologically this identification. So the entire things comes out like that, and ideally I can elongate also. This 0 I can elongate and curve it without stretching and all using the continuous fellow, and I can put like this. I can just paste like this. I can make this fellow. So I will be getting equivalent with a unit circle, something like that. You can see. Usually we denote this unit circle as S1. It's the boundary of the unit disk you are looking at. So what is going to happen now? If we have the closed bounded interval 0, 1 and identify the 0 and 1 together, I will reach at S1, right? So S1, I can say that it's an identification space corresponding to this. See, S1 is inside R2 actually. In the plane, you are getting this S1. It's a closed unit ball. Perfectly speaking, it's the closed unit ball in R2. So we may use some notations also in this case. Whenever you are identifying 0, my X was close 0, 1. While doing the X by R or D, the only non-trivial elements, I mean, actually it's identifying non-trivial elements are 0 and 1. All other elements are kept at the same. So if I am denoting this fellow as A, that is usually denoted, then my X, instead of X by R, I will simply write down X by A in this situation. If I am having a single thing, a single member in that family of a decomposed, it's non-trivial. Also, in notation 0, 1, that space is identified with the set 0, 1 in that case. This is going to be equivalent with S1, right? Topologically. It has in higher dimension analogs also, if you are interested. Instead of this, one can actually state that the closed unit ball, usually in topology, geometry will use a Dn, in the Rn space and identify its boundary is Sn minus 1. It is a notation to a point, single point. That's identifying like that. We get the corresponding quotient space, which is actually homeomorphic to Sn. Just like this. See, whenever you are identifying the two elements of 0, 1 in the closed bounded interval, you are getting S1. The generalization is something like this. You will be getting the corresponding value Sn minus 1 in that case. So geometrically, this is highly important. We can construct new faces, new topological spaces out of the old, very intrinsically, very naturally. So this is far-reaching effects to enter into the geometrical world of topology also. See, for example, if you have some rectangular piece of topological, some rectangular piece like that, piece of paper, I may use it. And now if I have a topology, I can just describe a topology on that as a part of the plane and all. Now, if I am identifying these two sides together, I'll be getting something like a cylinder. I can just think about that. I'm pasting all these things together, just simply identifying these fellows, right? So I'll be getting the cylinder in that case. I can talk about, by identifying, I can talk about the quotients of the things like that. Identification is not in this way also. Many other ways I can talk about. Mobius strip, plane bottle, all such things are very fundamental things in the algebraic topology. In geometric way, we will characterize it. It's very funny world of topology and very interesting world of topology. So these spaces, the quotient spaces as well as identification spaces, play a very important role in the sequel of study. We will do it at another lecture. Thank you.